Okay, so yeah, yeah, yeah. I have been on such a fantasy, mystery, spooky vibe this whole since like March. Even last year. This has been like a year thing. I think the only like spooky sort of like thrillery book I actually read was The Housemaid. But I have not read a memoir since Eat, Pray, Love, but that was just like a reliving that story because I love that story so much. And tell me why last night I am in bed and randomly, I don't know what came over me, but there is this speech that Oprah gave in 2015 at Stanford University. And when I was in a very dark place in my life in around 2019, 2020, I would listen to this speech over and over and over again. Like, I kid you not, I probably listened to that speech 3 to 4 times a week. I was obsessed with this speech. It's so good. Um, and I haven't listened to that speech in years. Probably, I think the last time I listened to it in full was like 2022, maybe 2023, but it has been a few years. And it's not that I forgot about it, because it does pop into my head from time to time, but I just think I absorbed so much of it that I don't really need to go back and listen to it again. Okay, so let's put a pause on that. Now, also, back in 2020, when I was in a very, very dark place in my life, it was the very first time I watched the movie Eat, Pray, Love. And that movie changed my life. Not to be dramatic, because I'm sure a million other people could say the same thing, but holy shit. And I have this very core memory. I grew up in a very Baptist Christian household, and we loved to go to the movies, by the way. But I remember in like 2010, when Eat, Pray, Love came out in theaters, I saw it, like the posters, and I remember seeing the trailer, and I kept asking my mom if we could go see it, and she kept saying no because she said that the pray in the title of the movie was not associated with the God that we believe in. So I never saw it. And then randomly, when I was just in like a bath, I remember I was taking a bubble bath. It was like the middle of the pandemic. I was having very severe agoraphobia at the time, which is basically like being scared to go out in public and like be in lines and be surrounded by people, and like you're basically like the only place you feel safe is in your house or like in your own space. um and just remember, I remember I didn't even rent it, I didn't even buy it, I was still poor and broke, that I was like on 1, 2, 3 movies or something like that, and I looked up Eat, Pray, Love. It just randomly popped into my head. um and this was at a time in my life where I was on this journey of trying to and really wanting to live my life on my own. I really wanted to travel. I really wanted to do a big road trip. I really wanted to explore outside of the city that I had been living in for a few years. But I was also caught in between a bunch of people that I love telling me to stay in an environment that I could feel myself outgrowing. But in that decision, there was safety, there was support, there was community, even though my heart was really craving to be alone traveling. So I think if you have watched Eat, Pray, Love, I think you know where this is going. Um, I watched it, and it is the movie, the piece of art, the story that motivated me to travel. It is the story that strengthened and reignited my relationship with God and still does to this day. I want to get that monologue tattooed on me so bad. The one from when she's downstairs at the beginning of the movie crying and praying to God. I want to get that monologue tattooed on me so bad because I can repeat it word for word watching the movie. Like, don't watch the movie with me because I will word for word repeat that prayer because it's so touching. Um, and that is my introduction to Elizabeth Gilbert. And at the time, I watched Eat, Pray, Love, and I watched that Oprah speech over and over and over again. It was like my lifelines, that Oprah speech, and Eat, Pray, Love. And it was just amazing. So then I read the book. The book was even better than the movie. I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, which completely made me rethink the way that I go about art and making art. And I feel like anybody who is artistic, whether that's music, if you have a passion for any type of artistry or creative work or anything that you're passionate about, really, read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I read City of Girls in the middle of the pandemic, which was so good too. Fiction, but really good. Big Magic, so good. Eat, Pray, Love, so good. Elizabeth Gilbert automatically became one of my favorite authors and favorite people. I don't know what it is about the way she's able to form sentences, the way she's able to tell a story, the way she perceives other people and the world around her, and how she's able to articulate it in such a funny, moving, inspiring way is just something that I can only dream or aspire to, like, reach that level of mastery in your craft. And she just seems like such a dope person in general. So to go back to the main point, last night, randomly, like so random, God works in the craziest ways. I was in bed here and I was feeling so restless. I flipped through so many movies on Disney Plus. I went through so many YouTube videos. I started like 10 YouTube videos last night, and like 3 minutes into each, I just like kept changing it. Like my mind was so restless, but I wanted to engage in something, but none of the books I was reading was pulling me in. None of the shows that I was trying to watch caught my attention. And randomly, that Oprah speech popped into my mind, and I was like, why do I want to watch that Oprah speech? I haven't watched that Oprah speech in years. I haven't watched this video in years, and suddenly I just felt this pull to watch it. So I pull it up. I'm like 10 minutes in, and something else comes over me, right? I'm like, okay. I was like, check Oprah's Instagram. Like, what the fuck? Like, I follow Oprah, but I never see her content. It's like not in my algorithm. But something inside of me was like, hey, watch Oprah's speech. But then something else was like, hey, open Oprah's Instagram. So I pull up Oprah's Instagram. In that day, Oprah had announced the next book in the Oprah's book club. And it is All the Way to the River by Elizabeth Gilbert. Like that day. I never go on Oprah's Instagram. I never look at her shit. I love her, but I never look at her shit. But randomly, on the day that she announces the Oprah's book club book with Elizabeth Gilbert, I just happen to feel this pull or this draw or this feeling of checking by one of my favorite authors ever, and Oprah. Like two of my favorite people. Okay, universe, okay, God, I'm hearing you. So Oprah says that she interviewed Elizabeth for her podcast. So I'm like, okay, I don't buy the book. Because I was like, still not listening to what the universe was putting down, what God was trying to tell me to do. So I was like, let me watch the interview, since I'm like feeling restless and can't watch anything anyways. So I turn off the speech, I put on the interview, and I hear what the book is about. Addiction, her relationship with her best friend, and the content of what they were saying did not sound that appealing to me, but I knew that I loved her previous work. But you know what really caught my attention in that podcast was they did it in front of a group of people in the location that they were filming the podcast, and seeing the serious way the audience was tuned in to Oprah and Elizabeth talking about the book, and whenever Elizabeth would reference something that she wrote in the book to the audience, it just seemed like they had this like reverence for the work. And that is what made me buy the book right away. I turned off the video. I didn't finish it because I was like, I'm gonna save this until after I read the book. So I bought the book, I got the audiobook, and I started doing a double combo. And I'm about 30% way through this. And I have already cried so hard. And just like thinking about it is making me emotional, because I'm only 30% into the book and it's already so brutally honest and raw and emotional and beautifully written and funny, and I only am getting to know Rhea briefly in the beginning here, but she just paints her and describes her in such a rich, full way showing all the ugliness, but all the beauty and all the polarities of just being human and being fucked up, but also how we're like, how there's duality in that, how humans can be so fucked up, how we're all fucked up. It's like we're all so fucked up. But we need to have grace for each other because of those fuck ups. And I know I'm only 30% in, but the way that Eat, Pray, Love changed my life, I can already tell that I think this is having even, if not an equal amount of an equal amount of an effect on me, it's having a big effect on me. Because after I got out of my last relationship, I've been thought that I was in a place where I had moved on and healed, and I thought I was in a place where I was ready to let him go, and I have let him go, but I realized that I do have a lot of blocks in the way of healing from my ex. And reading this book so far has just unlocked a lot of feelings and a lot of memories. And I don't think I've read a book so far that has moved me this deeply since Eat, Pray, Love. Um, fuck. I'm trying to think of what other books. Big Magic moved me, but it was in more of like a, it inspired me to dive into my creativity more. Um, Maybe the last book that I felt super emotional was Kingdom of Ash. I cried a lot during Kingdom of Ash. I think that book destroyed me. I even cried a little bit at the last Percy Jackson book too. But this is different. Like this in Eat, Pray, Love, sort of reading someone else tell their story of trauma and addiction is just so reflective. It's literally like holding up a mirror to yourself and just seeing all of the bad shit and figuring out how to face it, come to peace with it, and move on. I was gonna wait to record anything about my thoughts on this, but it's just moved me so much already and so soon. And I really wasn't expecting it to make me feel the things that I'm feeling so far. And it's just a little bit overwhelming. Like when I was crying reading this, and it hasn't even, it's only been like 24 hours. And it's already like fucking me up. And I was not ready for that. All the way to the river. I'm gonna go finish this book now, or get as close to finishing it before I have to be somewhere. So, those are my thoughts so far on this. This is kind of like a spoiler free pre thoughts on this. I think the next time I talk about this, it'll be completely spoilery. I'm gonna go back and make some notes. and then we'll really dive in to the shit. So good. So good. Okay, I finished the book. And it's so funny. It was like 2 days ago. I said I was at 30%. I'm done. Elizabeth, you fucked me up majorly. I've sent the audiobook to both my sisters. I purchased the book and sent the physical copy to my aunt. And now, from this point on, it's going to be full spoilers. I feel like I did like a very good job of keeping it very surface level when I first started talking about it, but here we go. I love art, I love movies, I love music, and dare I say that I have very good taste, and when something moves me, it moves me a lot. And there is not a lot of art that makes me look deep into myself and sort of cause me to question my own actions in humanity. But this story was such a expansion of what I think Eat, Pray, Love did for me when I first found that story. When I gave you the update the other day, it was before, it was right after Elizabeth was talking about all the good aspects of Rhea. Rhea, before she relapsed again, before she found out she had cancer. And especially in that scene where Elizabeth and Rhea go to the funeral and Rhea is protecting the drug addict whose grandmother had passed away from himself. Oh my god, I don't know why I just was crying so hard to that. Because Rhea was this strong, combative, yet protective, genuine soul. And I think Liz just did such a good job of describing the balance between Rhea's like super strong masculine energy, but this like deep feminine, like this balance between the both. This is before she relapsed again. And I think the reason why I got so emotional, because like what I was saying in the first part of this video, was a lot of this book reminded me of my first relationship and the good aspects of the guy that I was dating. And he was very similar to Rhea in that sense. I mean, a lot of sense. Like, in a lot of ways when it comes to drug use. Not like crazy hard drugs, but drug use. But also that sort of fearlessness to speak your mind, that sort of protectiveness, that sort of really rare and strong quality to bring people together and to make people feel safe and to say things so bluntly but so heartfeltly that you just sort of gather and accumulate a bunch of people who love you so much. My ex was very similar in that way. And I think reading someone describe that in such a beautiful way reminded me of a lot of the good qualities in him that I fell in love with so deeply. And like thinking about it makes me emotional now, but I'm not gonna cry. Because I remember when me and him used to fight, I would tell him, I would be like, oh my god, you are so good. Like, the reason why I love you is because of how you love and protect your family, the way that you protect your friends. Like, you are such a good person, but you are a shitty partner. Like, I used to always say that. So that's one reason why I feel like I was just so drawn in. Um, and then, so when I updated you last time, I had just Noah's Ark was made of wood. Oh, the vast. Sorry, TikTok. um. Bible in a year. Oh my God. In a year.com. That is kidsbibleinAyear.com. Okay, sorry. My Bible pray app went off. Now, before we get to. Okay, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought when that happened. So basically, the first part of the video was basically the first 30% of the book. Now let's talk about the last 70% of the book, which was extremely uncomfortable. It was extremely raw, it was extremely real, and it was very ugly, but it was so needed. It's kind of crazy how when Liz describes that first cancer diagnosis and how, like, I think she says it in the book, how that could have been the end of their story if she wanted it to be like a romantic novel, of how they just completely went off the rails together. Like, Liz was buying her cars and they were going out and they were drinking and they were partying and they were doing drugs together and they were just like living it up in this super sort of like epic end of their romance. What I think Liz thought was going to be the end of the romance, where I think she sort of blurred the lines of like wanting to love someone and like blurring the lines of like how to love them and take care of them, but like destroying them. Because like I think she wanted her to be live as fully as possible, knowing that it was coming to an end, not knowing the door that that was opening for it to happen. Because what transpires after, they go on this crazy roller coaster sort of free for all, was the most. I don't want to say it's like one of the most uncomfortable things I've read in a book, but I kind of do. I think another. A Little Life, very traumatic reading. While I was reading it, I think now that I'm so many years into the future looking back on it, I'm so far removed from it, but I remember at the time when I was reading A Little Life that I literally had to put that book down for, it was like 2 weeks, I think, because I could not finish it. No, and that was like the middle of the book. Like when it starts like ramping up and you start reading about that shit, I had to put it down for 2 weeks. I remember I got to the end of the book and I put it down for like another 2 to 3 weeks because it was just so intense and so uncomfortable that I just could not. And reading about Rhea going through her second relapse and hearing the heartbreaking realization of someone who you love the most in the world, the person that you feel most protected by, the person that you would do anything and everything for and have and would and continue to have the knife that stabs you the deepest, is a very eye-opening read. One thing that I feel like this book really put into perspective is how important your relationship with God is. Because you can see Liz throughout the book fighting God, coming to him, pulling away from him, praying to him, not praying. And also, like, throughout the book, you see how important your relationship with yourself is, but even yourself, you can't trust yourself. Like she says in the book, we're all addicts in some way. We all have some vice. We all are addicted to something. And at the end of the day, your relationship with God is the most important thing. Because Liz couldn't save herself from her relationship. Rhea couldn't save Liz from Rhea. And at the end of the day, God was the only thing that was able to bring Liz back to peace, bring Liz back to sanity, bring Liz to health and healthy habits and self-respect and healthy routine. And I could see so much of myself in that, especially when I first found Eat, Pray, Love. That was such a bridge and such a crucial and pivotal, like, the Eat, Pray, Love story is such a pivotal and crucial point in my life of me reigniting my relationship with God. And All the Way to the River is a very good reminder of how important it is to maintain and strengthen and trust that relationship even in the darkest times. And I think it's a very important reminder of how we may think we have it all figured out. We may think we know what to do in times where we feel completely helpless and lost and angry and sad. And it's so interesting because just a couple of days ago, I remember thinking and ruminating on the fact that when I moved out at like 18, 19, whatever, how angry at God that I was. Very angry, very anti-religion, very anti-church, very anti-God. And even in those moments where you're so upset at him and you're so angry at him and you're blaming him for so much and you're so confused, how even in the moments where you're like looking him in the face and calling him out, how he still loves you so much. And how he is literally there as you're screaming and hollering. He's there just being patient and taking it and taking it and taking it. But he sees past your anger in you. And if you're able to get over that anger, and if you're able to recognize the signs and recognize the love, how in the end, if you get right with him and you listen to him, how he will bring you nothing but blessings and peace and serenity. And I'm like thinking, it's funny how we choose to find God in so many different things. It's like what she was saying in the book. We make people God. We make food God. We make sex God. We make alcohol, drugs, everything that we can, and we worship it. And if you have listened to Lord's new album, Virgin, she talks about this on the last track, David, how I personally don't know what that song or who that song is about. It sounds like it's about a past relationship with someone who deeply hurt her, but she has a line in that song that says, I made you God because that was all that I knew how to do. It's very, very all the way to the river coded. And it's true because in my last relationship that I was talking about, I did the same thing. Guys, when I look back on the way that I was acting, especially in that first year that me and him started our love affair, he was a God to me. Like, that times 1,000. I was at work crying at my desk, breaking down because of this man who, by the way, the ones that are the closest have the knife to stab you the deepest, gutted me spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and I was hooked. And all I could think about was him. All I wanted was him. I couldn't eat, I couldn't go to the gym, I couldn't work, I couldn't think. I was basing all my decisions off of him, where I was gonna work, where I would go. Hopefully I would run into him. I literally made that man God, and he treated me like shit. And I'm sorry, my hair is a mess because I just woke up, but I don't care because I want to talk about this. And this book did a really good job of reminding me that I never want to be in a position. Like, it reminded me that also seeing Rhea in both of her lights, a very positive light and a very negative light, it reminded me that, and I think this is something that I've been really struggling with since I've read the book, is forgiveness. Because I still look on my past relationship, and it's something that's been bothering me all summer long, is I feel this heaviness, I feel this burden of being mad at my ex. This was just last year. He has already moved on. He has already found someone new. He makes it very clear that he has found somebody new. I am not in a state where I want to be with him, but I am in a state of letting go of it's not letting go of the scars of my last relationship, but realizing that it happened and moving on from it. I've never been good at letting go. Um, and I think this book, oh my god, it makes me emotional saying this, but it makes me realize the importance of forgiveness. Um, because a part of me, somewhere deep in there, and it's coming up, and it has been coming up all summer, like I want to forgive him and I want to move on, but I don't want to have that conversation because I know myself and I don't want to get. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But I think that's something that the book made me realize is the importance of forgiveness, realizing that we're all fucked up, that I fucked up. It wasn't just him in that last relationship. I said some crazy shit to my ex. And actually, there was a point in the book where I was like, I was Rhea in that situation. I remember last year. This is probably TMI, but who cares? I was so bad of all the lies, all the gaslighting, all the fucking shit, the drug use, the story switching up. I was so over it. I just remember looking at him and just being like, I hate you. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I hate you. You're the worst person I've ever met in my life. And if I could go back in time, I wish I would have never met you. Very similar to what Rhea said when she was in the middle of that intervention. Except I wasn't on drugs. I was probably drinking. I think I was drinking when I said that. But it was just coming up from a place. It's like when you love someone, basically your whole being for them is love. But there's things, comments, letdowns, insults, disrespect, those little things sort of build up. And it's like in all of that love, there's this little pocket of power that is just filled with disdain and anger that builds up and builds up. And when I was yelling at him that day, I was not speaking from love. I was speaking from that little pocket of power that was filled with nothing but my grudge demon. And I unleashed it. So there's moments like that where it's like there's two sides of the story. Neither one of us are perfect. I think a big aspect of the story too is codependency, and how loving from that place of codependency is so bad. And I love from that place. It's a very insecure, it's a very unstable, it's a very intense sort of place to love. It comes from being raised a very specific way. It has very deep roots. And you can just put yourself into some very unhealthy situations because of this sort of eager, desperate need to be validated and loved. And I think Liz put she said it in such a beautiful way of just the fucked up way that codependency, it's like the codependency, you think you're being healthy, you think you're loving right, when really it's detrimental to the whole relationship. I cried during the funeral scene. Just the way, oh my god, like, how are you doing in there, bud? Oh my god, I can't. I can't. I can't. Now, I'm not one who really likes the comparison between a god and a human, but in that moment, it just reminds me so much of Jesus and how he was able to go to the whores or the sick or the scammers, and he would just bring them in and love them. It's like everyone at that funeral was so scared to approach that grandson of whose grandmother died, and Rhea went like right up to him and checked on him. And I think if a lot more Christians did that, the United States would be a completely different place. Because that, a junkie, like, like, no, because Rhea wasn't a junkie at that point in her life. She was sober, but someone who is Middle Eastern descent, a woman, um, an ex-drug addict with a foul fucking mouth, just acted in a way that the Bible preaches to act, that millions and millions of Christians can't even do at all. Like, talk about having a good fucking heart. So I cried during that. I cried during the scene where Liz was just so overwhelmed in the middle of Rhea's relapse that she went to the river and she ran into that old woman who did not have keys, did not have identification, did not have anything. And Liz helped her find where she, because the woman was like gone. She couldn't remember anything. But Liz ran into her and she brought her back home. I don't know why. A lot of encounters have happened like that in my life, especially with older women. Like I always say this, especially when I was in California, but even here too. I don't know why older women who are like spiritual teachers always show up in my life. I'll have to do like a whole video on that because it's crazy. Of just like the random. Okay, whatever. I digress. I cried, of course, towards the end when Rhea was dying. Oh my god, when they went to the Apple store. And Rhea was telling the kid her life story. Because I was just thinking, I was like, imagine knowing that you're at the end and you just want to tell anything to anyone about your whole life. But the thing was, I'm sure whoever that kid was that she told her story to, like I have full chills. I'm sure if she told that story, like she told that story to him because he needed to hear it. It was completely God. Like whatever that connection was, wherever that happened in the space, them driving or letting her drive herself to the Apple store that day just to talk to that kid, I'm sure is a huge butterfly effect that will affect things in a crazy way. I cried listening to the story of Rhea's mother, like towards the end when Liz does the 3 stories of Rhea's mother. That was very touching. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I think the end of the book was the hardest part of the book to get through because Because now, at the end of the book, you're not just. The end of the book is a time of self reflection. The end of the book is the moment of accountability that you take. It's the moment where you hold up the mirror to yourself and now you're past all the shit. The relationship is gone. Rhea is gone. My ex, gone. And you are left with the mess. And you could either choose to roll in your shit or clean up. You could choose to keep feeding into your addictions, feeding into your bad habits, feeding into your shit, or you could get right with God. You could clean up your fucking mess, and you could get right. You could choose to do it alone and probably fail, or you could find community and do it the right way. And I think that was, I've never been good at giving. People in my life have told me this a lot, where I'm not really good at taking constructive criticism. So I think maybe, but I'm very aware of it. It's like I used to always tell people, you could tell me something that I'm doing bad at, and in the moment, I'm gonna fucking hate you. Because why the fuck? And who the fuck are you to tell me who I am? But then after like a day or two, I'll be like, oh yeah, that person's right. I probably should stop doing that or doing it that in this way. But yeah. Reading that part of the book was hardest because I saw a lot of myself in Liz. Like a lot. Between Eat, Pray, Love, and this, and I'm sure millions of other people will say this too, but it's a real feeling. And it's like a real reflection. And she is an author and a writer, and the way she puts things into words makes you realize things about yourself that you were probably hiding from or were scared to accept. And that is good writing. And I feel like, dare I say that All the Way to the River has affected me more than Eat, Pray, Love. Probably in ways that I don't even understand yet. There's a few things in there that I want to revisit. But I think the most important thing that this book did for me was plant a bunch of seeds. Which she also talked about when she went to those first rounds of meetings. Like she was saying, she didn't want to be there, but she took notes. The seed was planted. I feel like this book has planted the seeds in me, like the forgiveness thing. It's a seed that's been planted. Has it grown yet? No. Am I ready to forgive? No. But after reading this, will that probably eventually happen? Maybe. Do I know how? Not at all. Five out of 5 stars. So good. So deep. So ugly, but so real. So beautifully written, so raw, so fucked up. But I think it is one of the most honest reflections of what it's like to love someone so much, and especially love someone so much who is hurting you so much, and being able to use that pain to grow and better yourself. So, Liz, I doubt you will ever see this. Probably not, but whatever. You changed my life in the pandemic. The seed was even planted in 2010 when I was literally like in sixth grade, and I didn't even know what Eat, Pray, Love was or the story, but I knew that it was important because I clocked it and I always remembered it. And then in the future, it blossomed into Eat, Pray, Love. That story changed my life. And here we are again. But this time it's even deeper, and it's pulling me to do better and be better and get closer with God. So thank you for always planting seeds of knowledge that help me evolve. 5 out of 5.